Welcome to Sideline Sports, where we give you an up-close and personal look at the teams, coaches, and athletes that make up the Columbia Basin. Here's your host, Jeff Slakey.
Welcome to Sideline Sports. Exciting times in high school football playoffs. Royal and Okanagan face off in the state quarterfinals. The Big Bend women's basketball team opens the season with a blowout win, and the Wenatchee bowling team rolls through Moses Lake with a tight one.
This portion of Sideline Sports is being brought to you in part by
Allstead Real Estate, a name you can trust. Okanagan had an undefeated season going into this playoff game, but the Knights had too much firepower.
Royal City Knights defended their winning streak against the Okanagan Bulldogs Saturday afternoon in Wenatchee. Royal put up the first points of the game with number 34 Alonzo Hernandez running for a 65-yard touchdown. Hernandez would run a total of 198 rushing yards. Before the first quarter was over, the Knights would score 2 more touchdowns, which would set the tune for the rest of the game. The Knights' defense was just as strong as their quickly scoring offense, who allowed only 6 first downs from the Bulldogs and forced 6 turnovers. By the fourth quarter of the game, they had gone into a running clock due to the deficit being over 40 points. Along with Hernandez, number 7 quarterback Sawyer Jenks stood out, throwing 190 passing yards and rushing for 1 touchdown himself. Corbin Christensen, number 14, also had a great game at both wide receiver and quarterback with 55 passing yards and 2 interceptions, one of which he returned for a 35-yard touchdown. The Knights shut out the Bulldogs with an end score of 49-0.
We need to be healthy, and otherwise, the kids played, I thought, that was a good football team. They score a lot of points, and the first couple drives, I think, almost proved that out. They need to put it in the end zone, and I think that obviously helped us, but I think we're playing well right now.
The Royal Knights, who remain undefeated, will play the Newport Grizzlies, who are 11-1 in Moses Lake at Lions Field on Saturday, November 25th at 1 p.m. I'm Madison Meyer with iFiber1 Sports.
Sideline Sports is being brought to you in part by
Cheryl Konos Farmers Insurance is your local one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Whether it's auto, home, life, business, and farm and ranch, Cheryl and Farmers are here for you. She'll work to put together a package that fits your needs no matter how big or small. She's right here in Ephraitis. Please stop by for a free quote at 858 Basin Street Southwest or call 509-754-2550.
The Lady Vikings have playoff hopes this season, and things are already off to a hot start.
Big Bend Community College women's basketball started off their season in fantastic fashion by dismantling the Eastern Washington University club team. The Lady Vikings ended the game by doubling the score of their opponents, 72-36. Big Bend out-hustled EWU Club, ending the game with plenty of steals, fast break points, and rebounds. Things started off hot when sophomore Kelsey Foster took the opening toss to the rim for a quick 2 points. Then stole the ball on defense that led to another score for Big Bend. Sophomore Haley Garrity dominated early, scoring 11 points in the first quarter.
I wanted us to just make a statement when we came out on the court, and thankfully I just had great opportunities to score, and so I wanted to take advantage of that.
Later in the game, the rest of the bench saw playtime, with freshman Miranda Johnson making the biggest splash. In the first game of her college career, she scored 8 points and fearlessly took several three-point shots.
I felt a little nervous at first, but once I got out there, it was good. Energized, ready to play, ready to get back on the court and play a real game.
After the game, Coach Wilkes was pleased with the outcome as his team reached its goal of playing with hustle and keeping the opponents under 40 points. The Lady Vikings will next play tonight at Big Bend when they host Edmonds, a team with a similar run-and-gun style of play. I'm Adam Chakosky for iFiber1 Sports.
This portion of Sideline Sports is being brought to you in part by
iFiber Communications, the fastest internet in Washington State. Moses Lake and Wenatchee have very different looking rosters, but this bowling match went down to the wire.
The Moses Lake Chiefs had their first bowling match of the season when they hosted Wenatchee at Lake Bowl yesterday. Moses Lake and Wenatchee are on different sides of the age spectrum. Moses Lake has seniors to spare with more than enough to fill the varsity team. With all the seniors, it's junior Camille Silinslow who boasts the most impressive stats. Silinslow is the only returning bowler to have competed in state last season. She has high expectations of herself going into this year.
I want to make it back to state, yes, definitely. I also want to try and get a 200 and average about 150, 160. I do a lot of sports, so I have high expectations for all of my sports.
Wenatchee is very young, starting 2 freshmen on the varsity team yesterday. Lack of age doesn't affect their play, as they're experienced bowlers who have been in the sport for years before entering high school. Wenatchee coach Jeff Levitt said he thought that despite the youth, that this year's team was better than last year's, citing how it took until January last season before the team scored an 800-point game, but already in 2 matches this year, he's seen multiple. Wenatchee went off and scored over 800 points in both games, with scores of 821 and 810. Moses Lake came back and won both Baker games. At the end of the match, since both teams won 2 games, the total of all the points scored was tallied, with Wenatchee coming out on top, 1,631 to 1,515. Both teams played well and have bright seasons ahead. I am Adam Chukowski for iFiber1 Sports.
Taking a look at some other scores in football. West Valley Spokane 28, Sela 15. Elmira Cooley Heartline 60, Nacelle 32. Richland 28, Gonzaga Prep 21. In soccer, it was Kings versus Cascade. Both teams drew the match to a close with 1 point each, but in the shootout, the Kings come away with the 1A championship. Issaquah 2, Central Valley 1 in the 4A championship, and Liberty 3, Columbia River 0 in the 2A championship. Our game of the week, after a total dismantling of undefeated Okanagan, 49-0, the Royal City Knights set their sights on their next opponent, the Newport Grizzlies. Newport has only tasted defeat once this season to a Colville team they exacted revenge upon last week. Royal is 1 game away from returning to the 1A championships for the 3rd consecutive year, and Newport will need to bring everything they got to stop them. Upcoming games in football: Bellevue versus O'Day, Elmira Cooley Heartline versus Lummi, and Central Valley versus Richland. This has been another presentation of Sideline Sports. I'm Jeff Slakey.